Good afternoon. Welcome to the Saturday edition of Midday Live on TV3. My name is Grace Hamwa Asari. We're also live on DSTV channel 279. Coming up, results of 26,434 candidates who sat 2018 West African Senior School Certificate examination withheld over examination malpractices. Also, Tema West MP Carlos Kingsley Ahinkra stops planned demolition of illegal structures at Sakumo Ramsar site. The Industrial and Commercial Workers Union asked government to implement local contents law in oil and gas sector or risk losing the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. And on the international front, Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki visits Ethiopia for the first time since their border war in 1998. Many thanks for joining us. We are also live on DSTV channel 279 and our various social media platforms. Let's start with education this afternoon because results of 26,434 candidates who sat for this year's West African Senior School Certificate Examination WASI have been withheld over various cases of examination malpractices. The West African Examination Council WAEC explained the results of the affected candidates would be cancelled if its ongoing investigation finds them culpable. The alleged malpractices, WAEC noted, were detected during and after the conduct of the examination, which was written by 316,999 SHS students across the country. Figures from WAEC showed a marked improvement in social studies as candidates who scored between A1 to C6 improved from last year's 52.25% to 73.27%. Integrated science also recorded a slight improvement with 50.52 candidates scoring between A1 and C6. In 2017, 43.66% of the candidates scored that grade. Now, let's stay on education and go to the Upper East region, where in the Boku West districts of that region, trees are serving as classrooms and stones for chairs for numerous pupils yearning for education. Teachers squats on stones to perform duties. Eva Atiboka reports from Tonde.
A farming community that, notwithstanding, children have passion for school. However, staying in school is a painstaking experience and many are frightened. Aspiring to secure a brighter future, sitting under trees and on stones is their lot. At the heart of the community is the only school for the 253 pupils. The only 3 units classroom block school accommodates primary 4, 5 and 6. While trees serve as classrooms for the others, kindergarten and primary 3 share this big tree. Classes 1 and 2 are lucky to have a tree each to themselves. Pupils are constantly carrying stone and rotating in search for shade. Clouds in the sky means no school. In the absence of furniture, stones are best for chairs, writing time, and this is what you find. Few lucky ones are on mats brought from their homes. Monitoring and marking are done while squatting. And homework is simply not part of the agenda. Teaching and learning is greatly affected.
When it's after 12, we cannot even sit here anymore. So the only thing we need to do is either we shift somewhere or we find a way to go home because there's no shade for us to sit.
The school is saddled with low attendance and enrollment.
You enroll them, but within some shortest possible time, they run away because of the nature of the environment. Because they realize that some are sitting somewhere comfortably learning, and they are here sitting under trees. Those that are in the classroom, they are also sweating every day. So because of that, we keep on enrolling and they are running away.
The teachers are pleading with authorities and philanthropists to come to their aid.
Now, patients on admission at Sapeliga Clinic in Bokuwes escaped from their hospital beds at the sight of clouds or wind. Eva Tiboka reports the only health facility serving 12 communities in Bokuwes has developed deep cracks and is terrifying patients.
From afar, this is the Sapeliga Clinic. But go close and this is what you see of the structure, serving over 7,000 inhabitants in 12 communities. Walls are weak, roofs ripped off and leaking, lower blades missing, and officers on call and patients alike stay awake, fighting mosquitoes.
The river is not good. Rain was falling. The big rain came yesterday. Falling. All the room is very water. I used to take my daughter to hide. I can't go out to hide any place. I was suffering inside. The mosquitoes was also here, biting.
The structure has developed deep cracks, and the slightest rain and wind could bring it down. The clinic has 6 laying beds, which are mostly empty because patients escape admission owing to the state of the structure. Danny Anabila is in charge.
The cracks are everywhere, from the maternity block to the main facility. Everywhere is like this. When it is raining or even threatening to rain, all the patients that will get for that particular time, they all run away and leave us.
That is not their only concern. Logistics are absent, hospital folders are simply not available, and A4 sheets are the option for taking down patients' medical records. Those who can afford are competing with school children for exercise books to use as folders. Daniel Anabila again explained the implications.
These are some of our papers that we have used to improvise as folders, which we are using, and this is very, very difficult. You will pick the paper and put it inside. Then when the patient comes back to get it, and we'll find it difficult to trace the paper, because a little wind can blow it away.
Medicines and basic delivery items are a challenge.
We don't have a sterilizing machine, so we use high-level disinfection either by boiling the instruments or we put it in the 20% bleach.
The patients and health personnel are appealing to government to support healthcare delivery in the area.
Now, let's go to the Brongahafo region, where the Wenchi municipality of the region has recorded an increase in teenage pregnancy from 498 in 2016 to 577 in 2017. This was disclosed by the Wenchi Health Promotion Office at the annual Banda Kuribi Festival held at Wenchi Imam Seidu School Park. A report by Johnson Techi.
From 2015 to date, the Wenchi municipality teenage pregnancy cases involved girls aged 10 to 14. 83 cases have so far been recorded. Information available indicates about 15% of the girls involved could not complete junior high school. It is against this background that the Banda Kurubi Festival is held every year to educate and engage the ladies in their rightful age to marry on time to prevent unplanned pregnancies. A former municipal chief executive of Wenchi, Farizana Bintu Ibrahim, says apart from educating the youth, the festival portrays their culture, including their cooking habits, and unites the people. The health promotion officer of the Wenchi municipality is Abigail Teko Osom.
Teenage pregnancy is still high, although a lot of interventions have been put in place. 2013, we had 495, 2014, 582, which reduced to 550 in 2015. Then 2016 we also had a drastic reduction, that's 498, and finally it's rather increased in 2017 to 577. So you realize that it fluctuates.
Celebrating the week-long Banda Kuribi festival, the chiefs and people engaged in cooking traditional food. Their old ladies were not left out in the fun making.
Now, some health experts are calling for an effective national policy and research initiative to deal with thyroid disorders. At the launch of the Thyroid Ghana Foundation in Accra, the health professionals appealed to government to support skill acquisition and research to fight the disease.
Thyroid disorders are conditions that affect the thyroid gland, a butterfly-shaped gland in front of the neck. 20 years ago, a national eye-dated policy was introduced to deal with one of the numerous disorders, specifically goiter. Despite efforts to deal with the disease, health experts in Ghana say the disease has experienced an increase, with young people between the ages of 25 to 35 largely affected. Women are mostly affected. The Thyroid Ghana Foundation seeks to increase awareness, promote thyroid health and patient support. Provost of the College of Health Scientists, Reverend Professor Ayekumi, called for funding for research and professional training.
Thyroid diseases have so far been an enduring problem to the productivity and overall health status of the Ghanaian population, but unfortunately, little attention has been given to this problem. The country has so far not been in the best position to fully tackle this menace. Methods of diagnosis and care for thyroid patients in Ghana are generally not affordable to the average citizen.
The foundation seeks to create opportunities for early detection of problems to support research and management of the disease. Nanadra Kunedu is the founder and president of the Thyroid Foundation.
We intend to create awareness about the disease because it's not even popular among the health professionals. Some of the doctors, nurses, they don't even know, and they don't look out for it at the first call of a patient when you go to a hospital. So what we intend to do is to make it popular among them because the symptoms look similar like any other disease.
Let's still stay with health because the Chief of Army Staff, Major General William Azuri Ayamdo, has stressed the need to move away from the family replacement system of blood donation and scale up interventions to attain the 100% voluntary blood donation target. He was speaking at the commissioning of a new blood bank at the 37 Military Hospital in Accra.
Ghana has still not been able to achieve the 100% voluntary blood donation status as required by the World Health Organization, despite the various interventions over the years to achieve the target. As part of efforts to improve access to safe and adequate blood supplies for effective transfusion for optimal healthcare delivery, 37 Military Hospital has commissioned a new blood bank. The facility, which has the capacity to process at least 50 units of blood daily, replaces the old blood bank, which had limitations with space.
The processes involved in giving and taking blood is complicated, and thus requires the best of facilities, which you have put up here. A facility that will guarantee laboratory confirmatory checks and strict observation of other safety measures.
Commander of the hospital, Brigadier General M.A. Yabue Japon, said the role of blood and blood-related products in healthcare delivery cannot be overemphasized.
The military hospital, in its bid to provide the best of care for our clients, patients, continues to put together infrastructural and service improvement policies.
Officer in charge of the pathology division entreated other medical laboratories to work at attaining ISO accreditation certification to achieve the highest level of accuracy and reliability.
The way we were able to get there, we will now mentor the other public sector laboratories. We show them how we were able to do it. Commitment, that is all. So we will show them the way.
The Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, ICU, says its members will not pay the 1% levy on the National Health Insurance Scheme to be announced in the mid-year budget review. General Secretary Solomon Kote says managers of the scheme should be transparent and disclose the amount accrued so far under the scheme and how some funds have been misappropriated since the inception of the scheme.
Managers of the National Health Insurance Scheme have already concluded nationwide consultations on the need to impose a 1% levy on the scheme. The increase is expected to raise the needed revenue for effective operation of the scheme and to also defray the cost incurred by the scheme. Managers of the scheme have already convinced some members of organized labor to accept the 1% levy. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is expected to announce the increment in the mid-year budget review to be presented before Parliament next week. Ahead of the presentation, the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union (ICU) says it will not pay the levy until authorities are transparent with the operations.
If what has been contributed already have not been accounted for, how should we be compelled to come and pay another one? Then again, the indirect taxes we pay, apart from the VAT, you see NHI on every product you buy in this country. We've not been told how much is that also contributing. We've not been told how many also graduate onto the scheme and how many also leave by way of debts. So the data that will help us to say that, look, this is the point of the departure that we have reached, and therefore we need some addition or not. For the ICU, we are not satisfied on this call, and if anybody goes around to do it, we will get to Parliament and let Parliament know that this should not pass the test of time in our time.
The ICU again asked the National Health Insurance Authority to consider another round of discussions with Labour or risk creating mistrust among unions.
We have also argued that there are many foreigners who have taken advantage and enjoying this episode without paying anything. They only go and pay the subscribing fee, and that is it, and then they benefit. So if they have not actually screened their system, getting the corruption issue out, things that have been charged, what has happened? One we heard was that at the time that they were doing investigation on the matter, they were told powers from above say they should stop it. How can that be if we cannot get, the issues to the bottom of the matter?
Currently, associations such as the Ghana National Association of Teachers (NAT) and the Civil and Local Government Staff Association (CLOCSAC) have not agreed to the 1% levy.
Stay with us because we're bringing you more on some developments that will be coming out of the mid-year budget review. To some other stories now, the Member of Parliament for Tema West and a Deputy Trade Minister, Carlos Ahinkra, has stopped a planned demolition of illegal structures at the Sakumo Ramsar site, led by the presiding member for the newly created Tema West municipality, Kwesi Poku, and a host of young men. The MP challenged the authority of the Forestry Commission to carry out the exercise without first seeking his views.
Go away, please. Don't talk to me.
The Sakumo Ramsar site, also known as the Sakumo Lagoon, is a wetland of international importance gazetted during the colonial era. It is entrusted in the care and protection of the Wildlife Division of the Forestry Commission. However, the over 1,340 hectares Ramsar site has been heavily encroached upon recently by various developers. After several attempts to discourage the practice, the Forestry Commission early Saturday morning mobilized machines to pull down the structures, some of which were sited deep in the lagoon. The Member of Parliament for Tema West and the Deputy Minister for Trade, Carlos Ahinkra, was at the site with langars to stop the demolition. They produced a court injunction issued in Accra on Friday, July 13, and which was not earlier served on the Forestry Commission to halt the demolition.
And that is the exercise that we were carrying out this morning. But there has been some people came with a court injunction that there is a court injunction on the exercise. We are law-abiding, and so we are pulling off the exercise so that we go and then contest the case in court.
Carlos Ahinkra later told the media he acknowledged the encroachment was wrong, but he was only challenging the process being used by the Commission to address the issue.
What they are doing now, like I say, even though we support the idea, the way to solve it is not how they are going about it. We don't expect that they would go and attack the people who have bought the land first. Let us attack those who sold the land. Then we'll come on to those who bought the land. Coming in and breaking the walls or breaking a building down, for me, does not solve the problem. When you go back, the following day, the thing can come back. But if you go and hold the person who sold it, then you are solving the problem from the grassroots.
He promised to work with the Forestry Commission to find a lasting solution. TV3's independent investigation has revealed that majority of the encroachers are political figures. So let's stay a while longer on this story. And Mustafa Saidu is a director at Nature Development Foundation, which promotes the need to bridge the disconnection between nature conservation and development. And he joins me via the phones. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on Midday Live on TV3.
And good afternoon to your listeners.
Yes, so how critical is the preservation of the Sakumo Ramsar site to Ghana?
Yes, it's a shame. It's a shame. And let me say it again. It's a shame that a land which has been acquired legally and compensation fully paid to landowners will be overrun, and it appears authorities are actually promoting non-compliance with law. The critical part of it, and of course, if you live in Accra, you understand that the lagoons are naturally a water containment structures. And over the years, nature has made them to be like wetlands, and wetlands are supposed to soak the water and also serve as a breeding site for so many species which are along the coast. So government, in recognition of that, long ago, I think in the 1960s, acquired this land, and it's one of the processes constitutionally that you can compulsorily acquire that land and compensation paid to people. So I don't understand why compensation will be paid to landowners and they will turn around to be selling that land again. In fact, anybody who buys that land has nothing. He has no title. He can't even get a title. Because the person who sells to you has no title, and therefore he cannot transfer title to you. Mm. I'm actually surprised that and it's a shame, let me put it again, that the member of parliament will say they should go and tackle those who sold the land. It's not in law. The law is that the buyer must be aware. So if you bought the land without doing the due process, it is you who bought the land who should suffer. And that is because the person who bought the land has nothing. It does not have title. So if you don't have title, you can't transfer title to anybody. So by being a law, country ruled by law, if they have gotten injunction, what it means is that there is a substantive case which must be addressed and determined. So maybe my advice to Forestry Commission is to go and contest this. Mm. And I've no doubt that if they actually contest this, they're likely to be granted, for the injunction to be struck out, because nobody will have the land and you will come and encroach it and expect that the court will be on your side. For me,
so Mr. Saidu, away from the legalities of the issue, how important is the Ramsar site to nature, so that maybe people might be conscious of that and this is encroaching the site?
Yes, so thank you for reminding me on that question. One of the most vivid part that we can all relate is the fact that Ramsar sites are supposed to be flood control reservoirs. Mm. Supposed to be flood control reservoirs, and I think in the June 3rd disaster, everybody, we started talking about the fact that we should have some kind of dams around. In fact, nature has created this thing for us, and there were a lot of lagoons in Accra that were serving as water containment processes. That's something we can all relate to. It doesn't matter whether you are in love with nature or you understand that process. You can relate to it. The second point is that almost all water beds which are within the lakes, the sea zones, including the turtles. They all use the Ramsar site as a breeding ground. And so if the Ramsar site is gone, those species are gone. They are gone and gone completely. And for me, that's something we cannot just afford to lose.
Yeah.
If we don't care about our life in terms of the flooding that we are experiencing every day, then we should think about the species and nature that God has endowed us with, that we may have to lose everything because of reckless development. Yes, it's a shame. It's a shame.
Thank you.
I think that, yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saidu, for talking to us. That was Mustafa Saidu, Director at Nature and Development Foundation, which promotes the need to bridge the disconnection between nature, conservation and development. You're still watching Midday Live on TV3. We are back with some more stories after this break. Don't go away. Time now for business, and despite the Ministry of Food and Agriculture's policy to reduce the importation of chicken to save the local poultry industry, farmers say the challenges persist. Local farmers say they still incur losses as consumers choose cheap frozen chicken on the market over the broilers produced in Ghana.
Poultry farmers are not interested in producing broilers because they are not competitive with imported ones in terms of pricing. It is estimated that over 135,000 metric tons of frozen chicken were imported from the European zone in 2017, a figure that represented 76% increase over the 2016 imports. In March this year, government announced that it has reduced the importation of frozen chicken to the barest minimum, and that import permits had been withheld in the bid to support the struggling local poultry industry. Augustine Amankwa, a poultry farmer at Oyarifa, says he's yet to feel the impact of government's move, if there have ever been a move.
Imported chicken, the kilo price is a little bit lower than the local one because of our feed inputs. Our production cost is too high, so that the moment we raise one particular broiler, the price is higher than the imported one. So it's a problem to us.
He said the cost of feed increases the cost of chicken production for the local poultry farmer.
Now we have a problem with the maize. Maize prices have gone out, and maize is about 50% of our inputs. And then if the moment the maize price raises up, it means your cost of production will raise. A lot of people have empty cages, poultry pen, and then maybe they have money to raise the bed, but our problem is marketing. So if government means that they mean well, that they have reduced the importation of frozen chicken, I know we can fill the gap.
TV3 businesses visit to cold stores in the city reveal the business of retailing frozen chicken is thriving as ever before.
It depends on weekend. You sell about getting to 40-50 cartons. Yes, the 85 ones from Holland, the 65 ones from US, and that the 82 and 2 is from US. His name is Muntel. If you see the top, the red Muntel, and this the one at the top is chicken back. That one from Holland, and the carton is 55. This one too is Coach. That's for US. This one too is 55.
Have people been buying?
They are buying because the chicken or food products, so they are buying. They are buying.
Augustine Amankwa believes the poultry business is profitable and can help solve the unemployment situation in the country if government will give it the needed support.
Now, government has hinted of increasing taxes in the mid-year budget review to be presented by the Finance Minister in Parliament on Thursday, July 19. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta gave the strongest indication of a possible increase in some taxes in a response to a question by TV3's Alfred Okanse in an earlier interview with the media.
There's seasonality in these things, so 8% is nothing that you can claw back on. And then your issue was?
We still have a problem with leakages in our revenue generation as a country. What are you going to do, or what measures do you intend to introduce to deal with this in the mid-year budget review?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and it's a good question because when we talk about revenue mobilization or leakages, who is creating that problem? And I think that problem or issue is being created by ourselves. And so how do we as a people begin to acknowledge that and be personally responsible for protecting the public purse? And I think maybe segueing from what I just said in terms of what government has given in a real sense of meeting our social contract obligation with the citizen, is now to open up the books and say, okay, where do we want to go? What do we need to pay for? And therefore, how do we reframe our tax system or means of collecting revenue so we go ahead? So I don't really want to look at it as an imposition from me, but in we sitting down and saying, okay, where are we going and what should we do? And that, in a stronger, socially stable environment is how business thrives.
So let's go to Abosokai, where spare parts dealers there in Accra are asking government to stabilize the city. The traders lament the loss in value of the city is eroding trade gains made from the 10% import duty relief.
In May, the Customs, Excise and Preventive Service Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, held extensive consultation with spare part dealers. The consultations were necessary after agitations concerning port charges. As a result, both parties adopted a unified valuation method. Members of the Abosokai Spare Part Dealers Association initially hinted of price reductions. However, their optimism has been short-lived as their business is threatened by the loss in value of the city. Clement Boati, acting chairman of the Abosokai Spare Part Dealers Association, has explained that prices have been stable.
When that thing was done, we reduced prices, and after we've done the valuation and the classification with the customers also, prices have been reduced further, even though we are paying something less currently at the ports, but because the CD is falling, we still have to add more additional money. Yeah, in terms of the purchasing of the dollar or the euro or the pound.
Traders, however, lament that these gains are being threatened by the instability of the city. The instability of the city, they say, makes it difficult to sustain prices and make meaningful profit.
They have to find means of curtailing the dollar.
10% Prices have increased at wholesale, and the dollar rate is the major factor. Wholesalers have to spend more cedis to buy spare parts.
The dollar rate is the major problem. It is giving prices a lot of pressure.
Spare part dealers, in effect, are asking government to protect their trade gains in order to avoid pressure on prices.
To some other stories, the Advertising Association of Ghana has elected the Chief Executive Officer of DDP Outdoor, Togbo Mensah, as its new president. He takes over from Joe Edmond Neti.
At its annual general meeting, executives of the Advertising Association of Ghana agreed to amend their constitution in line with global standards. The meeting elected 3 executive members, Togbo Mensah as president, Mansa Amoa Ewa as vice president, and Kofi Enyinam Boateng as treasurer. According to the association, it is confident its draft advertising bill, which is currently undergoing review to reflect and meet industry trends, will be passed this year. The new president says when the bill is passed, it will streamline activities in the industry.
We got too far before the change of government. Once parliament goes off, you have to start again. But we've got so far, and we are sure that it will come to pass within this year.
Togba Mensah says his main focus as president of the Advertising Association of Ghana will be to bring sanity in the location of billboards in the country.
Before this election, we worked with the KMA in Kumasi and AMA. We restructured how signs should be installed. In fact, that's my industry. I come from the outdoor sector of advertising, so I know the problem, and we can fix it.
The immediate past president, Joel Edmondnetti, said he's happy with the contribution he has made towards the industry.
That's all we have for business. Moving away to some other stories. The Industrial and Commercial Workers Union has asked government to implement the local content law in the oil and gas sector or risk losing the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. General Secretary Solomon Kotai praised government for its boldness in spearheading the agenda, but called for strict compliance of the local content law to achieve the vision.
General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, ICU, was happy about the government's vision on Ghana Beyond Aid policy. He emphasized on the abundance of natural resources in Ghana and the need for value addition. The government plans to set up an integrated aluminium and bauxite manufacturing factory to process natural resources. The Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, ICU, however, pleaded with government to thoroughly check operations in the oil and gas sector if the Ghana Beyond Aid policy could be achieved. The association cited rampant dismissals of Ghanaian staff in the sector and also failing to comply with the local content law by foreign exploration companies. General Secretary Solomon Kotai asked the government to act swiftly.
Now, quite a large number of Ghanaians who through KNUST and Takwa, mines are in the house. They've gotten the certificate, they've gotten their license to operate. Okay, and yet they are sitting down, adding on to the unemployment. We believe our generosity should not come in this form, Ghanaian hospitality, to allow foreigners rather to have jobs to do, and the indigenous Ghanaians should be told that, well, it is based upon the BOP of the employer, and therefore stay in the house. This we are coming up in the coming weeks, and we'll let the whole world know how indigenous Ghanaians are being treated in their own home when we have found oil. The oil should not be a curse to Ghanaians, it must be a blessing to Ghanaians.
He also praised the president for his bold decision on Ghana Beyond Aid, but urged him to hasten slowly.
This is a huge dream. This is a destiny-changing dream, and he will be credited with how he has thought through, tread through it, and make it available. I believe it's about the dream of Ghana Beyond Aid being really discussed in good forum and be owned by all the divide of our political parties, and that has got some strength to change the future of this nation.
The ICU has therefore indicated its strong readiness to partner government in realizing the vision.
Midday Live is back with some more stories after this break. Stay with us. You're still watching Midday Live on TV3. Time now to go on the international front. And Eritrea's President Isaias Afwerki is visiting Ethiopia for the first time since the start of the two countries' border war in 1998. The visit aims to cement ties just days after the two neighbors declared their states of war over. A peace deal ending the 1998 to 2000 border conflict had never been fully implemented, and there has been tension between the neighbors ever since. The countries have also agreed to re-establish trade and diplomatic ties. Mr. Afwerki's visit is the latest in a string of moves towards reconciliation between Africa's erstwhile bitter enemies. Since taking office in April, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has announced a series of reforms and spoken of mending ties with Eritrea. Days ago, Mr. Abiy visited Eritrea's capital, signing a pact that declared an end to their state of war. The two countries have been in a state of no war, no peace since 2000, when a peace deal ended a war in which tens of thousands of people were killed. A border commission set up under the peace agreement ruled that the town of Badme, the flashpoint for the conflict was part of Eritrea, but Ethiopia refused to accept this, and so normal relations were never resumed. Elsewhere in Algeria, the number of migrants allegedly being forced to cross the Sahara Desert on foot has dropped significantly. A UN agency says the International Organization for Migration, IOM, has dealt with about 10,000 people abandoned near the southern border since last September. Some were left by traffickers, but others were expelled by Algerian authorities. The IOM said a claim rejected by the North African country. But now the flow has almost stopped. An IOM spokesman said that the numbers arriving at the borders with Niger and Mali had dropped significantly, saying only a couple of dozen people had arrived in Gao, Mali since the end of June. The Associated Press news agency also reports the explosions have almost totally ground to a halt, saying the issue came to light, but it adds mass detentions of migrants are continuing. Now, a summit between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin will go ahead as planned despite tension over Moscow's alleged election meddling. The White House says the pair will meet for talks in the Finnish capital Helsinki on Monday. But there are calls for the meeting to be cancelled after the U.S. charged 12 Russian intelligence officers with election interference on Friday. For its part, Russia said it was looking forward to the meeting. The announcement that the Russians had been charged with hacking democratic officials during the 2016 presidential election sparked a heated war of words between Washington and Moscow. Russia's foreign ministry said the claims were a heap of conspiracy schemes intended to damage the atmosphere before Monday's summit. It said there was no evidence linking any of the dozen officials to hacking or military intelligence. The 11-count indictment names the Russians defendant, alleging they began cyber attacks in March 2016 on the email accounts of staff for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. They are accused of using keystroke reading software to spy on the chair of the Democratic National Committee, DNC, and hack into the party's computers. They are also accused of stealing the data of 500,000 voters from a state election board website. That's it for international. We're back with some stories on the entertainment front shortly. You're also watching Midday live on TV3. We are also live on DSTV channel 279. We're also very active on our various social media platforms. Let's look at how our in-house cartoonist Tilapia captured some stories in a week. And that's how we end Midday Live on TV3. Many thanks for joining us. My name is Grace Hamwa Asari. Log on to 3news.com for some more stories. Enjoy the rest of our programs.